Let's set up our first session. When we first boot up Pro Tools, this Quick Start window pops up. This allows us to quickly create a new session from a template, create a blank session, open a recent session, or browse the computer for a session to open. We can also set the session parameters. In Pro Tools, all of the projects that we work on are called sessions. Let's start by creating a session from a template. Make sure it's selected here. Now we can use this drop-down to select a template category. Templates are cool because they are already set up with tracks and effects that are good starting points for projects. For instance, if we wanted to create a drum and bass track, we could select Music here, and then select Drum and Bass and hit OK. If you don't want this window to pop up every time Pro Tools starts up, just uncheck this option here before you hit OK. Now enter a name for the session here, and choose a destination to save it to, and click Save. The session loads up, and we can see there's already a drum loop in the session, and a bunch of tracks on it that might be useful as a launching pad for the song. We'll take a look at how to create session templates later on in this series. Let's close this session and start again. Open the File menu and select Close Session. Now hit Don't Save. To create or open a session without the Quick Start menu, just open the File menu. All of the options are right at the top. Select New Session or use Ctrl-N on the PC or Command-N on the Mac. Once again, we can choose to use a template or create a blank session. Let's select Blank Session this time. Now let's set our session parameters. We skipped over this last time. The first setting allows us to choose our audio file type. A quick note on file types and sample rates. Sound Designer files, or SD2, have a limit of 48 kHz for their sample rate. This is only on the Mac. If you want to take advantage of higher rates like 88.2 or 96, you must use either AIFF or BWF/WAVE. If you want to record at 192 kHz on an HD system, you have to use WAV files. If you want to be Mac and PC cross-platform compatible, the best choice is BWF/WAVE. Let's stick with that. Next is the sample rate. Notice that it defaulted to 44.1, which is the setting I chose in the hardware setup window. Let's leave it set to this. It's typical CD quality. For better quality or for sound-specific projects like a DVD audio project, choose a higher sample rate. Next, we can select the bit depth. 24-bit gives us a higher headroom or max volume than 16-bit, but it also creates larger audio files. I usually like to stick with 24-bit because hard drives are so massive these days, it doesn't make much difference. For I/O settings, choose Stereo Mix for now. We'll explain more about I/O settings in the I/O setup chapters. Hit OK. Select a name and destination for the session. I'm going to call it My First Session. Now hit Save. The first thing that pops up is a big blank gray window with our session name at the top. This is the Mix window. It's empty because we haven't created any tracks yet. Behind that, we can also see our Edit window with no tracks in it. If you do not see one or both of these windows, go to the Window menu and choose Mix or Edit to view these windows at any time. We can alternate between them by using the key command Ctrl= on the PC or Command= on the Mac. We can also resize them by clicking and dragging the bottom right-hand corner of each window. This is the Transport window. If you can't see it, go to the Window menu and select Transport. The key command for this is Command-1 on the numerical keypad on the Mac or Control-1 on the numerical keypad on the PC. We can see it looks very much the same as the transport that we might find on an analog tape deck. Click and drag the top of the transport to move it to the middle of the screen. To see more of its controls, go to the View menu at the top of the screen and choose Transport. Here we find options for showing and hiding the different sections of the transport. For now, make sure they're all checked. We can also enable or disable these options by clicking on this arrow here. We can even quickly view all of the sections of the transport or a minimal and compact transport. There are controls here for play, stop, fast forward, rewind, return to zero, go to end, record, and so on. In the center, there's counters for our timeline and position, and a few more counters to the bottom left that we'll cover in a later chapter. To our right are the controls for our metronome and tempo, as well as for count in, wait for note, and MIDI merge. Again, these will be covered later on. That's the basics for setting up a session. You'll feel more comfortable as you get to know your way around and get a feel for where everything is. We'll be going over all these functions over the course of this series. One last thing. If you disabled the Quick Start menu and you want to get it back, it's easy. Just open the Setup menu and select Preferences. Now select Operation and make sure Show Quick Start dialog when Pro Tools starts is checked, then hit OK.